Another important feature of the session view is the scene launch, and I talked about this a little bit in the first session that we did with our jam session. Basically, if I launch this scene by pressing the arrow next to the number 1 in this case, everything in this scene will play at the same time. So let's just demo that for a second. So now all 3 of these tracks are playing together. You know, I can adjust the volume, maybe make some changes here, no problem. And if I want to launch the next scene, all I do is launch the next scene by pressing the arrow on the next scene. Right? If I want to go back, I just pop back. So as I mentioned in the first session, scenes are really great ways to start organizing your ideas, because you can have like sort of your intro and then your build and your verse and your chorus, and you can have them all kind of like ready for you, and you can be flexible in your performance of the song. And you would also use scene launches if you're working maybe with a band and you want to have different sections of your song. You can organize things that way. Also, DJs work with scene launches quite a lot when they're launching different tracks. Last few things I want to talk about here are these cute little buttons down here on the lower right side of your screen. These are little windows that pop up if you need them, and I'll just go through them in sequence here. So the first one is the in-out settings of your session. So that means that when I open this up, I'm talking about the input and the output of MIDI and audio in Ableton. So for example, on my MIDI track here, it's coming in from all instruments, and it's coming in on all channels. I can adjust that if I want. There's 16 channels of MIDI in most audio applications. And then the audio out is going to the master, which means that the output of this channel is going out to the master over here. Now I can, if I wanted to adjust that, I can have it go somewhere else. I can say that I want the output of this channel to go into another channel, and I can change the routing. But most people work with things just all going out of the master, and that's the default in Ableton. All right, on audio track, the same thing. I can select my, my input. So I can select that here, and then you'll see my voice coming in. That's my voice coming into Ableton. And then if I wanted to do some recording, I could do that here, and you'll see my voice coming up in the channel. And then if I want to select the output, that's just the master, or I can send my output of this track into any other track. So I'm going to turn this audio input off. I definitely recommend, if you're not inputting any audio into your computer, that you turn your inputs off, because it does gobble up some CPU, and you're not, you have no need for that audio coming in, so might as well just turn it off. And then I'm going to close the window down. I recommend closing things down if you don't need to see them, because you start seeing, if I have all these things open, my windows will start to get very crowded, and I don't really need to see all of this stuff. So I like to kind of set it and forget it, just kind of get things to where I want them to be, and just close the windows down. Okay. So the S and the R stands for sends and returns. What sends and returns do is they allow me to split the signal from this channel and send it to another channel. In this case, I'd be sending it to return track A. And what that basically does is it allows me to share an effect over multiple channels in my mix. And I'm able to independently adjust the amount of reverb on each track. So I can share this reverb over multiple tracks, which is really, really helpful. Once again, if you're not using the sends and returns, you can just turn them off. And I'll talk about sends and returns a lot more when we talk about mixing. Speaking of mixing, the M button down here allows me to show or hide the mixing board. I don't know why you would not want to see the mixing board, but perhaps it's in your way. And so if you want to turn that off, you can, and it's just right here. Basically gives you a lot more screen real estate and clears the decks for you visually. But I'm going to leave mine open. Last little thing I'd like to talk about is the crossfader. If you're using Ableton as a DJ, you might want to use your crossfader, and that's this letter X down here at the bottom. So when I show the crossfader, I get a little crossfader feature right here below the mixing board. And if I want to assign different channels to the crossfader, I can. So say, for example, I've got this bit here on channel B and this bit here on channel A. So I would launch both of those. And then I would crossfade between the two tracks. Now I'm just playing track A. And now I'm playing track B. There it is. So DJs like to use crossfaders. I don't use them that much. I prefer to just make choices in my volume changes on my channel. If you don't want to use the crossfader assignments, just deselect A and B. All right. One other thing I'd like to show you is the different views that Ableton has, and I should have this open for the rest of our lessons. This is a little info view over here. I just popped this triangle open down here in the lower left, and I can resize this window, of course. But basically this gives me info on anything that I mouse over. It's going to give me a very brief description of what that track is. So I've got my info view here. It's saying track activator. Activate this button to hear the track, or the track volume, or the track panning, etc. And what also happened here is I was able to open up the waveform too by opening or closing this menu. So that's nice. Over here in the bottom area, I've got a small view of whatever is selected. So if I've got this waveform selected, it's going to show that to me here. Even if I close this, I can still see the picture of the waveform. If I select another waveform up here, it will show me a picture of that waveform. So it's a very good way to kind of like navigate without having to open up the track. By looking at the entire waveform, I can just see this small little part down here. Same thing with MIDI tracks. I'll see a little bit of MIDI information, maybe my rhythmic stuff over here, and it will also show that how it's playing. So I'm seeing the MIDI information passing over the MIDI clip, and I'm able to see what's happening there. Okay. So that really does it for me for the session view. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit cryptic when you first look at it, but hopefully through the past few minutes that we've spent together on it, you have a better understanding of the session view.